In the beginning of this category, these products were like seen as a sacrifice for different reasons. It can be religion, it can be health, if you're a designated driver, if you're pregnant. But now it's a choice, it's a lifestyle choice. And the consumers of these products, they also consume alcohol. So this is an opportunity for the wine industry. Tonight I'm gonna take you, as a good friend and a wine writer and very credible wine personality says, Robert Joseph, I'm gonna take you to the dark side of the wine industry, and I'm gonna talk about no and low. How many people here love non-alcoholic wine? Not even one people? One? Oh, okay, Valeria, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so it's fine. I'm not here to convince you that you should love non-alcoholic wine, but I'm here to show you a little bit what is happening at the moment and to show you the opportunities. So, and we are gonna see that there is a big, at the moment, blurring lines within the category. So, first and the foremost, I have bad news, and wine production versus wine consumption. Wine consumption is decreasing year after year. So this data is from OIV, but this is adapted by CIT, Global Wine Broker. And as you can see, wine consumption is always less than wine production, and it's decreasing year after year. And since last 15 years, it has decreased 7%. So what does it mean? Maybe wine consumers are dying, so we need to recruit new consumers, or consumers, they don't drink wine anymore. This is the bad news, but here we have some good news, the growth of no and low. So while wine consumption is decreasing, no and low category is increasing. So according to IWSR, in 2023, no and low category value surpassed $12 billion US. It is still a small number, it's still a niche market, but the expected growth, less than 10 years, is double. It's gonna become almost $24 billion US. And only in the low and no alcohol wine, the growth expected in CAR in 4 years is 9%, whereas last 15 years, wine consumption has decreased 7%. And even better news, globally, 76% of no alcohol consumers, they consume alcohol. And 82% of them, 84 in US, they consume alcohol. So what does that mean? In the beginning of this category, these products were like seen as a sacrifice for different reasons. It can be religion, it can be health, if you're a designated driver, if you're pregnant. But now it's a choice, it's a lifestyle choice. And the consumers of these products, they also consume alcohol. So this is an opportunity for the wine industry. So who is the consumer? We still have 17% of the global consumers as abstainers. They don't drink alcohol at all. But then we have 20% blenders, meaning, for example, today I'm blender. In the same occasion, I'm consuming normal strength wine or spirits and no alcohol wine or spirits. And there's trialers. So if you have tried today some of the non-alcoholic drinks here, you are a trialer, 21%, and substituters, 43%, depending on the occasions, you go from full strength to non-alcoholic. And why do the consumers prefer it? As we know, it's the health choice, lifestyle, but moderation in volume of alcohol, but also frequency, and occasion-based consumption. So now, like bottomless brunch days are over. Consumers, they socialize around yoga, walks, or they do daytime drinking. They prefer non-alcoholic drinks. And it's better for you, better for the planet, and also blurring category lines. Consumers prefer dynamic drinks. They don't care about varietals, vintage, some specific plot. Although I'm a Master of Wine student, I care about it, but the young generation, they don't care about it. And the category is driven by Gen Z. They are not buying or consuming alcohol based on Robert Parker's, Janssen Robinson's rating. They buy it according to Instagram, what they see on their friends' feed, influencers or celebrities. And then what they look for. They don't only look for zero alcohol, they look for as low as alcohol possible, healthy products, low calories, low sugars, 0 calories, less additives, no fat, and the category is driven by the brands, occasions, social media, availability, and the price. And the consumers are willing to pay the price for non-alcoholic products. So, before going into the wine, because I'm a wine person, I'll talk about the wine, but I think to understand the no and low alcohol category, it's very important to see what's happening in the beer, spirits, and wine proxies. So as you can see, the beer and the spirits, they're not scared of using the same brand, exactly the same brand, same label, same logo, and going 0-0. But in wine, we don't see it except a few brands. And the wine is very fragmented. It's driven by small boutique producers. On the other hand, beer and spirits, they're consolidated, and they have obviously much more bigger budgets, and they're not afraid of doing it. But what is really important in the technical aspect, wine is always much more difficult to get a very good quality and similar taste dealcoholized wine, because the beer, although we see a stout example here, Guinness, most of the beers available in the market, they are lagers, pilsners, and we talk about 5% alcohol, and they have carbonation, so it makes up the loss of alcohol. And dealcoholized spirits, non-alcoholic spirits, 95% of the category, if not all, they're formulated, they're not dealcoholized. And if you taste the Tanqueray 0-0, if you smell it, it's going to smell exactly like gin. But if you taste it, it's not going to give you the same experience. But if you mix it with tonic, it's totally going to give you the same experience. But whereas in wine, except some particular wines as fortified, port, Jerez, we don't mix it. We don't use it in the mixer. So it's very, very difficult. So, and also in the wine, we all of a sudden talk about the legislations, natural flavoring, beer and spirit, they don't talk about it. So when we talk about wine, what is no, what is zero alcohol, what is dealcoholized wine, what is the regulatory limits, do we have natural aromas or not? So we make it even more complicated and more confusing for the consumer. So at the moment, we don't have a global legislation. Depending on the categories or the countries, it differs. But the European Union follow the OIV regulations, and what is allowed or expected is dealcoholized wine up to 0.5%. Allowed only the ingredients are allowed in winemaking. But if you are using different ingredients, then it's not dealcoholized wine anymore, it's a dealcoholized wine-based beverage. So this is obviously making it even more complicated in the non-alcoholic wine. So quickly, how do we make the non-alcoholic wine or dealcoholized wine? We have optimum ripeness in the grapes, we make the wine, we dealcoholize it through different techniques, and then we need to do adjustments, and the stabilization is very important, and then we can package it in bottles, cans, bag-in-box, or even PETs. So, the physical removal of alcohol. I know I'm going a little bit technical here, but I think we need it in the industry because there is still lack of education in this area. So you see two different techniques here. You see spinning cone column on the left side, it's an Australian technology, and you see low temperature vacuum distillation Golo on the right side. It is a cooperation between BevZero and a manufacturer in South Africa, Logichem. So these methods, they're both amazing methods, and we can separate the alcohol from the wine as gentle as possible, low temperature as possible, but if you can pay attention, on the left side in spinning cone column you see 2 columns, on the right side in Gola you see 3 columns, so we are capable of separating 3 fractions in Gola, 0,0, aroma fraction, and alcohol. So what do I mean when I say separating the aroma fractions? Here, what I just said, like natural flavoring or not. So if we can separate let's say we talk about the Sauvignon Blanc, it's a very aromatic grape variety. We dealcoholize it, we go down to 0,0, and we can separate all the aromas of Sauvignon Blanc. but at the moment currently they contain ethanol. So if you're making a 0,0 wine, we cannot add back those aromas. We need to go to 0.5. Does it really make a big difference, 0,0 or 0.5? Ripe bananas have more than almost 0.5 alcohol. So again, I think we're making it even more difficult for ourselves and for the consumers having this definitions in the industry. So what happens after this is very important, the adjustments. So as you can see here, when you do dealcoholization, everything changes, all the parameters. Acidity increases, pH decreases, and then if there is any volatile acidity, it's going to concentrate. The sulfurs decreases. So you have basically a total different product and different structures, and you need to adjust it. And what was happening so far was adjusting these products with so much sugar. Why? Because in the older generations of non-alcoholic wines, you would dealcoholize any quality of wine, and then to be able to adjust it, there will be so much addition of sugar, grape must, and no designation of vintage, grape variety, region, and then most of them were resembling fruit juices. And again, inexpensive look of the branding and bottom shelf level and lack of education. But what is happening now, especially after COVID, I mean, the trends have been there for a decade, but COVID has accelerated it. And now there's more education, improved technology, and better quality base wines. And if you know the parameters of your wine, and if you choose it accordingly, then you don't really need to use lots of sugar to adjust it. And then now the makers are focusing more on the grapes, varieties, specific plots and vintages, and there is a big scale between entry-level wines, which is 5-6 euros on the shelf, and 107 euros sparkling non-alcoholic wine, French Bloom. So the things are changing. Last thing is, do we do bulk or bottled? With the dealcoholized wine, it is more difficult obviously because there's less alcohol, but it's possible to do bulk shipment or bottle shipment. You see two different methods of bulk here. Temperature control ISO tanks or flexi tanks. We ship from South Africa to UK in flexi tanks, non-alcoholic wine. So if you know really the methods or the measurements that you need to take, you can do it. And it's more sustainable, obviously. You can ship more volumes, less carbon emission than bottling and shipping, or you can do either or. I'm finishing this technical, boring part and my speech with this different examples. What we see at the moment, we see lots of products with big focus on 0,0 because they are targeting the consumers, they don't drink alcohol. But then, as you see, Sangre de Toro, it's a big brand in Spain by Torres family, and Natureo is also by them. But they keep exactly the same brand, and they launch it in the 0 version. And then we see Sovi. It's from California, Chenin Blanc. It has a vintage. It comes from single plot and $35 US per bottle. And then we see French Bloom in same packaging as a champagne, selling a lifestyle and celebration. Then we see can formats based on dealcoholized wine. And we see almost like a beer bottle format. And then we see a gin, which is based on dealcoholized wine. So with the dealcoholized wine, we don't have to only make dealcoholized wine. We can make a spirit, or we can make a functional beverage as cannabis. And I just want to show two examples, one example here and two different SKUs. I didn't know that I was going to see this brand here. If I knew, I would have put it in my presentation. So if you haven't tasted yet this product, Bole, I recommend you to go and taste it once I put them back. So this is a UK-based brand made of Chardonnay and white version and the rosé version. And what is really different in this brand is what they do is they get dealcoholized wine And then they re-ferment the dealcoholized wine with a specific strain of yeast, which is a secret. I don't know what type of yeast because it's their R&D. But then the process after dealcoholization to the bottling, it takes a month. So they re-ferment it, but this yeast doesn't produce alcohol, it produces different aromas. And then all the aromas we have here is the natural, and then it produces its own bubbles. It's fermented in the tank, like a Charmat method. 95% of the bubbles, its own bubbles, but then it's a little bit topped up with carbonization. So I think it's a very interesting product, and there's no other non-alcoholic wines made in this way. So if you have a chance, I would recommend you to taste this product. And it's very reasonable price. It's not like 109 euros. It's like on the mid-level, it's around 20 euros per bottle. So if you today take 3 key takeaways from my presentation is no and low alcohol wine is not a disruption in the wine industry. It's an opportunity and it's a way to extract new consumers, and it's the future of the wine. And it's not a trend anymore. It's a category. It's here to stay. And wine industry can fight it, or they can join the trend.